Hey, welcome to this episode of the Awakening Women podcast. This episode is a best of replay on how to know when your relationship has reached a point of no return. This is a common thread and theme for women. I know that we can circle in this for years, even decades. So I'm going to play that for you in a minute here. I wanted to invite you to a new thing I'm doing. It's not new, but it's newer how I'm doing it as far as the format goes, is I'm creating a way that you can come in and experience 30 days of coaching with me, and you'll get my methodology for how to understand what's going on in your relationship, how to break the pattern, and how to get really clear on the truth so that you can start making some different decisions. This is not 30 days to figure out your whole relationship and fix everything in 30 days. This is to give you a reset with some clear, actionable next steps that you can take that are going to help you with knowing what you're going to do with your future either way. That is the intention. It's an energetic and emotional recalibration to your clarity and to your power. And I've ran 30-day sessions like this for years, for 6 years or more. And it's been a while since I opened up something like this. So I am opening up the space and a community and a thread where you can post your questions and I will answer them every Friday. So not only will you get my methodologies and the processes that I've taken women through for over 6 years now, you get access to me in this pod. So to get the information for that, just head to the link in the show notes, and I'm going to play this episode replay now. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Awakening Women podcast. In this episode, we're talking about, is there a point of no return in a relationship, and how do you know if and when that is? This is something that I get often. It's a question that I get often. And so I wanted to break it down here. First of all, based on the science of attraction and attachment and why this happens, where women start to lose attraction, lose desire in a relationship, which is another thing that I've seen a lot in my coaching practice and therapy practice, is women not wanting to be intimate or have sex because they don't have that desire. This is a really tough one because as women, there are some certain things that we need to have in place for our desire to be activated, right? Our feminine energy needs to be fully online. And so if you are in a relationship with a man that is not in his healthy masculine, who is not leading, providing, protecting, providing containment and a structure to the relationship and the family, and you're having to do all of that, you are the leader, you are working, running a business, successful. Some of the women that I work with, they are the breadwinners, high income earning women who are paying for everything. And you are definitely not in your feminine energy if you're doing all of that. And so what is meant to be happening is that, at least when it comes to the teachings on polarity that I really love, is that when we're in a relationship, we're meant to share the load. Women have a different role, men have a different role. And I really do believe in that. I've experienced it. I know it to be true myself, how I feel in certain situations and scenarios versus I used to think I just liked to be the get shit done woman, get it done, take over, take charge, fix, just do everything. Let's, come up with a plan and I'm going to spearhead this thing. And I had that naturally inborn part of me that has gotten where I am today. So I'm grateful for that version of me. But it doesn't work very well in relationships. And if you have that kind of high achieving, success driven, ambitious energy and you go into dating with that energy, guess what? Guess what kind of a man you're likely going to draw in? You're likely going to draw in someone that is under functioning, that is not reciprocal, because they're like, hey, great. That sounds great. You're going to take over everything. Excellent. I'm just going to chill out over here. Or they might put effort in the beginning, but then slowly they dwindle and backpedal that effort, and it slowly dwindles away. And then you are like, well, this is what I do. I jump in, I lead, I fix. And we talk about this, the hero role, helping, enabling, rescuing, overfunctioning. Women are doing this to the detriment of their health, getting cancer, autoimmune disease, other different types of chronic illnesses. Our adrenals are flatlined, our hormones are all fucked up, and we wonder why. And we have to look at what energy that we are operating from when it comes to a relationship. So let's just do a quick deep dive into the science of attraction and attachment. So remembering that attraction is a chemical thing in the beginning, in the early phases where everything just feels really, really good. And it's like, oh, this is like finally my person. It's so good to be true. And everything just feels so magical. Well, that is coming from the bonding love chemicals, right? It's that new relationship energy of oxytocin, vasopressin driven, rather than infatuation love. So when it's chemically driven, which it is in the beginning, this is factual, it's much more difficult to see the cracks, see the issues, see the misalignments and the incompatibilities, or even the red flags. I hate that, but that's what it is. So when attraction fades, it's often because the nervous system no longer associates him with safety, excitement, or desire. So what happens for women is that our body literally stops producing that same cocktail of bonding chemicals. So we know that happens. It's been known as the honeymoon stage. That first few months, I would say the first few months up to 6 months, where everything just feels really new. You're able to kind of overlook the things you don't like or think that they're cute, or overlook little red flags or behaviors instead of addressing them. And they kind of just build up over time. So for women in particular, our attraction is context driven, which means that research shows that women's desire is highly influenced by how safe, supported, and emotionally connected they feel to their partner. So if resentment, neglect, or repeated boundary violations start to creep in, they pile up, it chips away at that foundation. And then once she no longer feels safe or emotionally attuned, her brain shifts from bonding mode into self-protective detachment, which you might already be experiencing. And this is really unconscious. It's not necessarily something that you do at first that is conscious, but once we have crossed that threshold into that, it is very hard, if not impossible, I would say, to reverse. It's kind of the thing where I say to women in my program when they come in and they do the first module, lifting the veil. And what I say in there is just be ready, because once you see, you're not going to be able to unsee it. There's no more going back to sleep once you've had your awakening. So you can't go back and then pretend you don't know what you know now, right? So this might be exactly where you are. And women will say, well, now he's doing this, that, and the other, and being so great and loving and nice and whatever. At what point is it just too little too late? Well, this is where it becomes that. So women may fight for the relationship at the first signs of this. And especially the powerful ones, us outspoken ones, we will argue, we'll ask for change, we'll lead the change, we'll book therapy, we'll read 50,000 marriage books and then try to teach them what we're learning and get them on board and force them to do the growth work. But when nothing changes, when they've done everything, it just leads to an emotional numbness that is very difficult to revive. In fact, it's usually downhill from there. It's a downward spiral from that point. So remember that it's a process at first, and then you shift into the decision. And this is a gradual process, usually. There can be really quick shifts that happen within this if you have new awakenings and new new information, or you're getting mentorship around this specific specialized mentorship to help you see things more clearly, then it can happen quickly, but not necessarily quickly because it's been building up for years or decades. And so when women come into my relationship clarity method, which is formally in the cycle, it's the same method, different branding, different name. It's got some other epic processes in there and other things that I've created over time. But they come in and they're like, within weeks, I have shifted. Everything's changed. I made the decision. I'm getting the divorce. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Within weeks, when they've tried years of therapy. Well, it's not necessarily that my program or process fixed everything. It was just that they were at that point to where they were ready to receive what it was that I was offering with the transformation. Because typically women have already been doing a ton of work and trying to fix it. So the decision comes after your nervous system has already detached typically. And at that point, it can feel like you're flipping a switch, like it happens like that. But truthfully, the switch had already been powering down for months or years or decades. And this is where a lot of times men will act as though they're blindsided, like, what, you never said anything, or where's this coming from? Like all of a sudden you're just done, right? And it's not that you just suddenly fell out of love or lost feelings. It's that you've just stopped fighting for the relationship long ago, before you actually get to that point where you're ready to eject. So when a woman hits this stage, rekindling feelings is extremely rare, because once her body no longer has that sense of feeling lit up with attraction, she can't force that chemistry back. Now, some women I've worked with will say, no, I still have that. I still have sexual attraction, but they're not recognizing that it's coming probably from an addiction, and like an emotional addiction, because that's really the only time she can feel connected to her partner. And if you're able to just disconnect, if you're one of the types that can just disconnect from the emotion and just do the act of being intimate, which some can, I think it's a form of really dissociating and can come from trauma. Because if you really are loving yourself and you really truly are doing this from a healthy place, there's no way you're going to be able to open yourself up like that and truly get as vulnerable as a woman can, without having to shut that down, because your body, they don't coexist, right? There's no way for that to coexist. For staying awake to what's really going on, and the disrespect and the lack of honor and care and respect and protection, to be able to go into sexual turn on, we have to be able to shut off that part. So a lot of numbness and dissociation has to happen from that. And so when this starts to happen, intimacy can start to feel more like mechanics, like obligation, but not necessarily feeling attracted. You might have some ambivalence in there where you kind of are, but you're not, or you have flashbacks of things that were said or things that have been done or hurts that have not been resolved while you're trying to force yourself into intimacy. So I believe that this really is what points to the point of no return, is when the intimacy wanes, the attraction wanes, the sexual desire pretty much dries up to nothing. But there are some other warning signs. So there is the protest phase, and this is when, and I teach this in my program, so I'm just going to do a quick rundown. There's the early warning signs around the protest phase. This is when you might still care enough to fight for the relationship. And this coincides with my 5 levels of awakening as well, which is I teach that inside of the my bootcamp bundle. This is when you're still caring enough to fight for the relationship. So you might be communicating more instead of less in this phase. You're probably really pushing for change, trying to have talks, pointing things out to him, repeating yourself over and over and over again. And then you can swing between hope and frustration. So one day you're feeling loving, affectionate, and the next you're resentful and shut down and feeling really cold and, shut down in a sense. The criticism increases, not because it's coming from meanness, although you might be very angry, but it's more so that you're signaling, I need you to notice this because I'm literally on my way out. Like I'm seeing the door. And your sexual desire dips. So the desire is directly tied to emotional closeness and respect. And if you feel like those things are off, then the attraction does wane. So if change can happen here, feelings can be repaired, but a lot of care and work on both parts needs to be fed into the relationship to rebuild from those early warning signs. And oftentimes what high achieving women do is we just pour more into work, achievements, trying to fill up our cup through successes, through validation in our work, and through achieving, through the goals, through getting what it is that we set out to do. And then we recognize, well, I'm going after all these things, but they're not necessarily giving me the feeling I thought they were. And so they still kind of have this emptiness. And then you're not getting your needs met within the relationship. So it can be a very frustrating place to be like, well, like, where do I start with this, right? Because we have learned that the more we do, the harder we work, then we are worthy. We think that is linked. And so instead of going into that, what I have women do is to slow down and start tuning in about what they need. Now, that's really the very beginning phases of it, because then there are more of the mid warning signs. This is more of the resignation phase. And this is where you might be starting to lose hope because you lose the desire to stop explaining yourself because you think, what's the point? He's not going to listen. He's not going to get it. He's going to dismiss. He's going to minimize or change the subject or walk away or shift the blame onto me. And so you move from that first phase into the second where you're no longer speaking up as much. And then the conflict decreases because you're not bringing anything up, but the intimacy is gone. The house is quiet. There's a lot of distance, but it's not in a good way. It's tension. And then the kids can feel that and they can sense that tension in the space. And then what happens here too is that she starts to invest elsewhere. So I have worked with women who have been in affairs, emotional or otherwise. And this can happen because she literally feels like, I have nowhere to turn from here because I feel like I've already tried everything else. I've explained myself till I'm blue in the face. I've done the therapy. I've done the books. I've done everything that I know. Like I've exhausted all options. And then they find themselves in a affair of some sort, emotional or otherwise. They might start to really dive into their career or their kids or friendships or even just into their own inner world and kind of disconnect and dissociate from the relationship. Because any of these other things, whether it's an outside affair, career, kids, friends, this becomes the source of connection that she's craving because she's not getting it from her mate. Now, that doesn't mean that should only ever be your only source of connection. I believe that is not healthy either, but it should be a huge part of it because that is the person that you're with the most. You're not with friends all the time and every day. When your kids grow up and fly the nest, you're not with them every day. And you're with your partner every day. So that does need to be a healthy, safe space and a healthy connection. And then when you're in this place, you also might feel like touch feels forced, like you might still hug and kiss, but that warmth and spark is gone. So this is really the gray zone. And if she starts detaching here, it's hard to reverse, but it could still happen. But again, with deep repair and work coming from both people, not from you, the woman, spearheading the entire thing. That's what tends to happen. Women come to me by the time they've been trying to do it all on their own and they're just like exhausted from trying it all. And then they come and work with me and they feel instant relief because of the methods that I teach them for how to stop carrying this on their own and how to let go of the heavy weight, the big sack of boulders that you're carrying that aren't yours. And then you can start seeing things more clearly from that place. And you start seeing things from self-love, from self-honor, self-respect, self-sourced energy, self-sourced frequency, self-sourced self-care, right? Where you're taking care of you emotionally, your inner self-mastery. You're pouring into the things that really light you up. And then you start to see things more clearly around you from that place. This is why doing your own inner self-mastery work is the only way to figure out your relationship, because it's definitely not from trying to explain it to him one more time. It's definitely not going to happen in a therapist's office. It's not going to happen by shoving another book in his face for him to read, or another podcast, or a post. It happens when you change. Everything shifts and the clarity comes. And so when we get into the third and final stage, this is the detachment phase. And this is what I would say is the point of no return, because your nervous system has recalibrated away from your partner, away from the relationship. You no longer see that as your point of connection, your safe space, your comfort space. And so there's an emotional flatness. So you're not necessarily getting angry. You're not begging or crying or trying to make it work anymore. You just feel this calmness, or as some women might say, it's like a numbness. The affection dies. The physical touch feels like a chore. There's no desire. Those future plans begin to vanish. You start coming to terms with that there is no future. And that can be really painful when you start doing what you've been so afraid to do, to actually look at what does life look like outside of this relationship. What are the losses? What are the things that I'm going to lose in this that I'm grieving? And you start thinking more in terms of I instead of we. Like whenever you're thinking about future plans, you're like, I don't want to make future plans with him because I don't know if I'm going to be here. That's one of the big ones, is how much you're including him in future plans and goals. And then the final, and this is really, I think, the last straw, is when your body literally repels him. This is biological. When the safety and attraction collapse, arousal shuts down. That's how we're wired. That is how a woman's body is wired. And so at this point, you're already emotionally single, just not logistically. And then it's interesting because a lot of times these men will start to try and do all the things once they see that you've detached. But that's not going to happen, because all of this whole thing has happened behind the scenes. And so your body starts to literally stop feeling the desire, and you can't force it. You're like, why? Where did it go? It's just not even here. I'd rather literally go do anything. Or you're just completely repulsed by it. So it's a process and it's a journey. And this is why when women come into the program that you can join it either just as a self-study, do it yourself on your own. If you're one of the self-study lovers that just likes to be able to curl up and do it on your own, you don't necessarily want to have any support or ask questions or be in a group, then you have that option available to you. Just come into Instagram and DM me clarity, and I can get you the options. You can also upgrade it into joining also the membership. So then you're going to be getting the process for your relationship where you study that on your own regardless. But then you're in the space where we're talking about the self-sourced identity, moving into power with your boundaries in your body, in your career, business, money, abundance, in your feminine energy, really embodying all of these pieces while you are coming to terms with the reality of your relationship. So you have support in the Telegram container that you can come and ask questions in the Q&A each week. But the caveat to this is that there is no toxic men talk in the Telegram. It is, I'm learning this. How do I apply it? What's a boundary I set? How can I shift this? What am I not seeing? That is powerful questioning that actually gets you to think about, okay, how do I frame this in such a way that puts me in a power position? Not how can I get him to change? Decoding his behavior anymore. No more of that. So if you're in that place where you've already done all this and you're at that kind of final warning signs space, where you think you might be getting to that point of no return, then get yourself inside. Start with the course if that's what you want to do, or you can do both. And just reach out to me. Let me know what's going on. You can email me. Let me know what's going on for you, and I can lead you in the right direction. But don't ignore it, right? It's one of those things that women think, oh, I'm just going to keep doing, that that's the only way. But there is another way. There's a way of surrendering and putting that energy toward what's actually going to serve you. Because trying to spearhead an entire relationship and keep the shit from going down on your own, it's never going to work, no matter what you do. And so what women learn when they come into my spaces is that, I just feel so much relief. Imagine if you could just feel relief right now, even if he doesn't change a thing, even if he doesn't do anything different. Imagine being able to feel relief and even some mental clarity and just a huge weight off without actually needing him to do anything. That is power, and that is detachment, and that is the identity of the self-sourced woman. She is able to pull in those feelings of relief and safety and building this self-security within, no matter what a man is doing or anyone else around her. This will serve you in every area of your career, your business, with other families, with other relationships, in all areas. Because your relationship really is the pulse. It's the pulse for everything else. Like, you're with this person in the most intimate way, and then you're going out about your business in the world from a place of energetic depletion. You know, you're trying to build something and achieve something and run the show and lead at work or in your business. You've got goals, but you've got this heavy weight that's dragging behind you. And you think that's not going to impact every single area, no matter you can do all the things and check off the boxes. And this is true if you're younger, but as you get into your later 40s and 50s, you're not going to be able to keep up with all of it. Your body will literally force you to stop. You'll be forced to stop and see that the way you've been doing things is faulty, that your strategy is broken, that what you're doing is not effective. And then when we reach that point, well, then we're like, all right, I surrender. Like, that's when you come into mentorship with me, and that's when everything changes. But you've got to be ready to do the work. You've got to be ready to look at your own shit. You got to be ready to stop trying to fix him, figure out his behavior, figure him out, drag him to therapy like he's a little boy. And you need to step into your powerful woman. The powerful woman that you already are. You're just not acting in alignment with her right now. You're not embodying that power. You might be in your work life, your career, your business life. This is typical for the women I work with. They're kicking ass in that area, but then they go home and they have this dead weight relationship that siphons their energy. I've worked with so many powerhouse women in very high level careers, and they have to go and be on in those spaces and see their patients and clients, but then go home to a misaligned, emotionally vacant, disconnected relationship and the emotional chaos within that. So there is another way, but it requires doing something different. And when you're ready, get a hold of me, message me on Instagram, email me, let me know you're ready, and we'll get you hooked up to a resource or the program or the membership that seems like the right next fit. And I will chat with you in the next episode. Bye for now.